What's up, people? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Desmond Z, if it's the first time that you've ever seen me. We are here to talk about all the books that I read in the month of May. So without any long introduction, let's just get into it and do it. But why did my entire brain just go blank? What's the name of this book? Canto Contigo. What is this? Blood at the Root. I spoke about these in a previous video. The reading books outside of my comfort zone video, yeah, I'll link it up here. I already reviewed those. And Skyfalling, I reread this. I took my own advice. I took a recommendation from myself, and I reread this Skyfalling, which I talked about plenty of times before. I loved it even more than I did the first time around. And so yeah, amazing. I talked about that book in my most recently, because I've talked about it a million times. Most recently, I talked about it in my go-to book recommendations video that I recently posted. Link is up here. You can watch that if you can watch that if you like, if you dare. While We Were Burning, this book is about Elizabeth and Brianna. Elizabeth is a white woman, Brianna is a young black woman, and they may be close to the same age, but I think Brianna's younger. I can't remember. Anyway, two women, one white, one black. And Elizabeth works in like education or something. She works for like this after school program where the kids come. I don't know if it's an actual school or if it's just an after school program. I cannot remember. And I kind of don't want to remember. But anyway, let's just say Elizabeth works in education, okay? And she's been through some things. She's been through some tough stuff, okay? And her husband is like, you know what? Let's get you an assistant, girl. Let's get you an assistant because you need help. You need somebody to help carry the load, okay? So in comes Brianna, and she, starts working for Elizabeth. And Brianna has her own trauma. Okay, she's been through some things herself. And she feels like the answers to why she went through what she went through lies over here in Elizabeth's circle. Like, she can find out some shit. Okay, and this is supposed to be like thriller, mystery, psychological thriller type of thing. I also don't know if this is supposed to be satire or what, because if it's not, girl, let me tell you something. You might want to label it that because it's ridiculous at this point. These plots, it's ridiculous. Is this in the synopsis? I think it is. Hold on, let me double check because I don't want to spoil nothing for y'all. Okay, yeah, it's actually in the synopsis. Brianna wants to know why the police killed her young black son, why someone in Elizabeth's neighborhood called the cops on him that day, who took that first step that stole her child's life away. So yeah, she's coming over here because she's like, I know one of y'all did it. Something happened. One of y'all did it. And I'm going to figure out, exactly who it was. And I don't know. There was a smidget of a time where I was reading this book and I was like, oh, okay, hold on. I'm slightly invested. We might be doing some things here. And then it quickly drifted away. This was just not a book for me. This was not a book for I. This was not a book for thy. And I recognize that. So maybe you'll read it and maybe you'll enjoy it. But I could not. It was things happening. I was like, everybody in this book is stupid. Everybody is dumb. This would never happen. About halfway through the book, one of the major plot points, we get the answer to like what's supposed to be this big, great mystery. And even before that, I feel like most of us had already figured it out. Like, you'll know what's going on here. And I'm really not 100% sure if this is one of those books where the author doesn't mind you knowing the answer. I know some books are written to where it's not the, what happens, but it's like how it happens. You're supposed to go through this story to see, the journey. It's all about, it's like, it's not about, it's about the climb. It ain't about what's waiting on the other side, okay? It's about how we get there. I know some people write books that way, and I'm fine with it. I've read plenty of books in that manner. But this one, I don't think that the actual objective was for it to be about the climb. I think we were supposed to be in the dark at least halfway through because that's when we get the answer. And then after that, it's about the climb. And the climb was getting on my goddamn nerves. And that's just all it was. And then the ending pissed me off. It was so you know what? I'm getting to a point where now I don't want to trash. I don't want to talk I don't, yeah, I don't want to be disrespectful. And this was not a book for me. It was not a book for me. And yeah, if you read it, I hope you enjoy it. Good luck. The One by John Mars. Now, this is an older-ish book. This was published back in like 2016. And I know there's a Netflix adaptation for it now. I need to watch that. But The One, if you don't know, is a book about several different people. We live in a world now where someone has discovered a way for you to find like your ultimate match, your soulmate. This is the person you're supposed to be with forever. Y'all supposed to be locked in by submitting a DNA test to this company. They do tests or whatever, blase, and they find out who you're supposed to be with, okay? Now, what happens if you already with somebody? What if you got a ring on your finger? What if you in a committed relationship? What if you married? What if you engaged? What if you been with your boo for 6 years? Y'all done built a life together. And then you go take a test and it say, that ain't the same motherfucker that we got in these test results. What happens then? What happens? Do you throw all that away and take a chance on these results over here? What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? And what happens if you get the results and the person you love is dead already? Like, what if they took the test and then they got hit by a car and it's like, you look up and they in the obituary. It's like, so what now? What am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to just keep dating knowing that it's actually never gonna be, my ultimate happiness? It's not gonna be what I'm looking for? Because the person I'm supposed to be with got hit by an 18-wheeler? What happens? What happens then? So all of these different answers, all of these different questions arise. This is the same author who wrote the Passengers, which I've talked about before. I also mentioned this author in saying that I was excited about a book that he was releasing coming out this summer. I think it's called The Family Act, something like that. I can't remember. But he, from what I see, he always writes these type of technology kind of based thrillers and talking about like humanity and the way, life is progressing and for good and for bad along with, technology or whatever. So I enjoyed this. I really did enjoy this. It took me a bit to get into this one because this is one of those ones where we hop from different characters. I'll say about 6 main characters, probably more, but at least 6 stories. And it might be like a couple in this story and then just one person in that story. And, and we go from one to the other. And then we have like 1 or 2 central characters and what they do affects everyone else, right? So overall, I don't have much else to say about it other than I really enjoyed it. It makes me think. Like these type of books, no matter written by John Mars or someone else, just those type of books always make me think about like my own life and just the society we live in, because I think about that type of stuff a lot, like the way technology affects the way we live and how I think people put too much of themselves on the internet and people tell too much of their business in general. This has come from somebody who literally sitting on the internet talking to a camera, but you know what? Pay that no, never mind, okay? I'm talking about books, okay? But I do think like people just give too much of themselves away in general, not just on the internet, but in everyday life. I can be sitting down at a cafe and, as a stranger comes sitting next to you and all of a sudden they're telling you their whole life story. And I'm like, girl, hold on, please. Like, why are you telling me all this? Granted, that is how I met one of my dearest, closest friends who I love to death. We met, and within 10 minutes, she was telling me her whole life story, and I was like, girl, I don't know you. I don't know. We laugh about it now. We talk about it often. But, yeah, at the time, I was just like, girl, don't think you're finna get my business, because you're definitely not. But still, okay? So I really enjoyed The One, and if you haven't read it, I think you should. And I'm gonna watch the Netflix adaptation and see how I like that. All right, next we have Stay With Me. This book is about Yejide. Yeah, it's Yejide. This book is about Yejide and Akin. They are a married couple, and Yejide she has not produced a child yet, okay? She has not had a baby. Yejide and Akin have been married since they met and fell in love at university. Though many expected Akin to take several wives, he and Yejide have always agreed polygamy is not for them. But 4 years into their marriage, after consulting fertility doctors and healers, trying strange teas and unlikely cures, Yejide is still not pregnant. But she's like, I think I got time until her in-laws and all that arrive at her doorstep with a young woman, and they like, okay, this is gonna be his second wife. Yejide knows the only way to save her marriage is to get pregnant. And she finally does, but at a cost greater than she could have dared to imagine. At one point, I was really in it. Like, I did enjoy this book, let me say that. I did not dislike this book in any way. But for some reason, I don't know, it never fully clicked for me, and I never was able to fully grab on to the book and just go along for the ride. It's kind of like I was always half in, half out. You know, 1 foot outside the door, I hear a funny hesitation of a heart that's never really shown. Iconic song, iconic artist. But that's how I felt. It's like I was halfway in, halfway out. But do I still recommend this book? Yes. Do I think it talks about some important topics? Yes. You know, but it's just I can't fully explain it because it was just something that was keeping me from at arm's length from the novel, and I haven't fully processed it yet. So maybe this is one where I wake up and I'll be like, oh, okay, I see now. But at the same time, I see what the book was doing. Like, I understand. I'm trying to talk it out, but I haven't gotten there yet. We're gonna come back to Stay With Me. We'll come back to Stay With Me. We'll come back to Stay With Me because, yeah, I'm still not 100% sure how I feel about Stay With Me. I'm not. All right, Sweetness in the Skin. This book is about Pumpkin Patterson. Is that her name? Yeah. Pumpkin Patterson. She's 13 years old. She lives in a tiny 2-bedroom house in Kingston, Jamaica with her mom, her aunt, and her grandmother, okay? Now, she's really close with her aunt, Sophie. Sophie is the aunt, right? Yeah. Her mom is like, she's neglectful. She's selfish. She doesn't really care for Pumpkin. She doesn't care to be a mother. You know, Sophie is like the mother figure in that house for Pumpkin and also the grandmother. So what happens when Sophie gets an opportunity to move to France? Now, it's always been Sophie and Pumpkin's dream to leave and go to France together and live out, you know, blissfully as aunt and niece and, you know, eat croissants and, you know, do all of the things, okay? But Sophie's like, okay, I gotta go here first, get settled, and then I can bring you along within the next year after you finish this year of school, pass the test, finish French class, so you can actually apply and show that, hey, I need to be enrolled into this school, blase, so you can come here and get your citizenship or whatever, okay? Now, Pumpkin is left here having to figure out, okay, what do? I have to make sure that that things go accordingly. So I got to finish school and graduate out of this class or whatever, this French program. But also she's living with a mother that doesn't love her, that doesn't care for her. All the mom cares about is money and her men. That's all she cares about. The grandmother is there and she's trying her best to love and protect Pumpkin, whose real name is actually, what's Pumpkin's real name? Because she says it in the beginning of the novel, because she's like, my real name is something, and it ends with Isha. But she's like, when you hear that name, you don't think doctor, you don't think lawyer. You have all these preconceived notions when you hear the type of name that I have as a young black girl, which is very true, very and still very relevant. Whenever someone wants to be, you know, they have a joke and when they want to make fun of some girl with a stereotypical black name, they always add an Isha at the end, and they always say, oh, those are the ghetto girls, and those are the girls you don't want to hang around, blase. But I know that an Isha can be any and everything she wants to be. So we talk about that, like, so it started off strong, okay? She came through the door talking her talk, okay? And I appreciate her for that. And there was a few times in the novel where, okay, I was feeling like we were kind of muddling along, but I say that about a lot of books. But in the end, I was happy with the story that I read. I enjoyed my time with Pumpkin. I enjoyed my time with all of the people around her. And even the mom's story, because when you think about it, we talked about colorism and racism and all of those different things. And Sophie was the daughter who was held up on this pedestal. The mom, because the grandma was not innocent, even though she loved Pumpkin, she was not innocent. She held Sophie up on this pedestal where, you know, everything had to be perfect for Sophie. We have to make sure Sophie goes after all she wants and, you know, she gets every opportunity that comes to her. And we want to make sure we have everything set for her. But Pumpkin's mom, whose name I actually don't remember, which is actually kind of poetic considering the fact that she was always the forgotten daughter. Or is it a fault for me and not poetic at all, Desmond? Should you be ashamed of yourself, Desmond? Something to think about. But Pumpkin's mom was always a second thought. It's like, you know, Sophie's a pretty daughter and she gets everything, and when is it going to be my turn? And so she felt so unloved, so, you know, just discarded, that she took that pain and that trauma and she inflicted it upon her own daughter. It's just a cycle repeating itself. So Pumpkin's like, why don't you love me? Why don't you care for me? Why can't you just be a mother? But she doesn't know how, because she was never properly loved by her own mother. And it's like, she's the problem, but no one wants to see how she became the problem, the root of it all, okay? And it just it's going and going and going. Now, the mama can go to therapy, the mama can talk to the Lord, the mama can do whatever she needs to do to fix those issues, because she's now an adult. And it's sad to say, but the pain that gets inflicted upon us as a child, it's when we become adults, it's our turn. We have to find out a way to fix it, because most of the people that gave us those issues, they damn sure not gonna be the ones to fix it. They're not. So now it's our turn. So there's so many different layers, so many different things that can be talked about in this book that I actually really, really enjoyed and have really stuck with me. And I definitely see this being one of my favorites of the year. And Sweetness in the Skin will probably stick with me for a while. Yeah. Yeah, and there's a lot of other different things that I could talk about in this book, but for the sake of this video, I won't. But I will say, read it. I definitely will say, yeah, read this book. This is why I do need a book club. This is why I do need to be in a book club, so I can have these deep discussions. Yeah, I just talked myself into liking the book even more. Yeah. Ooh, I'm hot now. Ooh, I'm hot. The Guncle Abroad. I read The Guncle, which was book 1 in this now series, back in 2022. And The Guncle Abroad, we are back with Patrick O'Hara, who is an actor. And in the first book, he was taking care of his niece and nephew for a summer when his brother was like going through some issues after losing his wife and couldn't really, care for his children. So the uncle stepped in. And we're back 5 years later after the events of that novel. The dad is getting married. He's getting remarried, and it's in Italy because he's getting married to like this uber rich woman who's, high society over there across the pond or whatever. And the kids feel a way about it, but the dad is like, okay, we just need a little time to ourselves before, the wedding. So can you, watch the kids? So he spends the summer with them again, and they're traveling all across Europe, and they're supposed to end up in Italy where, the whole wedding will happen. And now the kids are older, they have more agency over like their decisions and what they want out of life pretty much. And they voice those opinions. They have hesitations about their new stepmom, and they just want life to be the way it was. So I thought this book was funny. It was heartwarming, and yeah, this was just a fun, heartwarming book. It did get a little mushy, a little very after school special at times, and I was just like, okay. Overall, I really did enjoy this book. I think even more so than I enjoyed the first one. Yeah. A fun book. So yeah, with a good message. And the last book that I read is My Name is Leon. This book is about Leon, who's a 9-year-old kid who gets taken into foster care, him and his brother, when their mom can no longer take care of them because she's dealing with mental health issues. What happens, Leon is half black, half white. Their mom is white, and Leon's dad is black, but The baby Jake, is he's white. So what happens when people come along and they're like, oh, a little white baby, I'm gonna adopt him, but y'all can keep the older half black one in the foster care because we don't really need him. We just want the fresh little white baby, okay? What happens then? And Leon loses his brother. He feels like I'm the only one that can take care of him. I love my brother, don't take him away from me. And I've already lost my mother, and now I'm stuck with these strange people, and they kind of care for me in a good way, but I still really don't know them. And we have all different type of things to talk about. Separating children, there's racism, and so many different things happening in this book, and I think that was the downfall. Because it wasn't just, oh, the racism within the system, which we really could have focused on. Leon, as he's, moving about in his new neighborhood while he's living with, Maureen, who's actually a really good character in this book, she becomes his foster mother. He meets these other people in the neighborhood, and then that's when the book really derailed for me. Because he meets these older guys who are hanging out in this neighborhood where there are so many more black people than there are in the neighborhood that he's living in while in foster care. And he gets to meet them, and they kind of take him in because they just think he's just some random kid that lives in the neighborhood that just popped up, at the local hangout spot where all these stores and stuff are. And they're like, oh, little kid, be careful, ride your bike, and, blase. But they actually get invested and adopt him. He's like they bring him in, and he's like their little pseudo nephew. But it derails because it turns into their story. And I was not invested in that in any way because I don't feel like it wasn't done properly to me. It didn't feel like a natural segue into their world. It just didn't. It did not. So I did not like that. And it just ultimately ruined the book for me. The first 20-25% of this book was really good, really solid, and I was in it. But ultimately, yeah, it didn't do it for me. I think we had a great opportunity here to really dig deep into how like the whole foster care adoption system works and all of that. And then Leon's mother and her mental health, and then he has a foster mom who's actually a really good foster mom. And it was so many opportunities within that where we could have explored different topics, but then going off with, I don't remember, Dusty, Rusty, Tufty was his name, I think, and all those people, it didn't do anything for me. And ultimately it made the book just, it didn't do it for me. It didn't do it for me, respectfully. Okay. And yeah, that's it. Those are the books that I read in the month of May. I got sunshine on a cloudy day. And that's it. That's all I have for you in this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you are not subscribed. And I'll see you in my next one. Thank you so much for watching.